All right, this is Jason with the Primal Outdoors channel, and today we're going to talk about getting your saw ready for winter camping. All right, so we're getting into mid-September, and you guys know I love to have campfires, and I love to get out and process some wood with my chainsaw and have good big campfires that I can enjoy in the winter. Some of you guys might be starting to look at chainsaws, and if you've never used chainsaws before, I'm just going to go over a few things that might help you in your search for your first saw, and if once you get your saw, a few things that you should be aware of to make sure that your saw works good for you. Now, first of all, as you can see, I just got an off-brand Remington saw, and this saw has worked really good. I've gotten some flack over the years for not having a Stihl or a Husqvarna, but the fact is this saw has been very reliable and a very good saw for about half the cost of what a comparable Stihl or Husqvarna would be. Now, this particular saw has a 46cc motor and a 20-inch bar. 20-inch bar might be a little bit long for the average person who just wants to cut some winter firewood, but I kind of like having the extra bar length just in case while I'm out, if I run into a situation where a snag has fallen, a tree has fallen over the road, and I have to cut it out of the way, I like to make sure that I have plenty of bar to kind of handle multiple sizes of trees. So that's where it's kind of nice to have the 20-inch bar, and then with the 46cc motor, I have plenty of power to be able to run a bar of that length. So that's kind of some thoughts behind why I picked up this particular saw. Now, the first thing that you guys need to be aware of, especially if you're brand new to chainsaws and you don't know much about them, is these guys use two-stroke motor or two-stroke engines, which means you need to put two-stroke oil in your gas. If you don't put two-stroke oil in your gas, you will burn up your engine. See, unlike your cars that have motor oil separate from your gas, these use oil in the gas to lubricate the engine. So what you need to do is you just get some two-stroke motor oil like this, and you add it to your gas. You're going to have to look in your owner's manual and find out what the ratio of gas to fuel you need to mix. Now, mine is clearly marked right here under my gas tank. It says it's 40-to-1. So I just measure out, 1 gallon of fuel, measure out what I need an amount of oil to get a 40-to-1 mixture, and then mix it into my fuel and make sure to, mix your fuel really well before you put it in your gas tank. Another note on gas is if you're a hobbyist user like myself that you're not using your saw all the time and there's times that your saw sits for periods of time, I highly recommend using non-ethanol fuel. Non-ethanol fuel won't gum up your carburetor like ethanol fuel will. Your regular ethanol fuel that we get at most gas stations now, if it sits in your chainsaw for any amount of time, it will gum up your carburetor, and you will find that you'll have a hard time either starting your chainsaw or it just won't run at all. If you can't get non-ethanol fuel in your area, I highly recommend getting a fuel stabilizer like Sta-Bil, or I've even seen at some of the stores that when you pick up your two-stroke motor oil, the two-stroke motor oil has an additive already in it. So if you have to use ethanol fuel, definitely make sure you're putting some kind of fuel stabilizer in it. The other thing about chainsaws that you should be aware of is that you do have another spot where you add bar oil. Bar oil is used to lubricate your chain, so while it's running, it has lubrication for the chain and the bar, so that way you don't destroy your chain and your bar. So definitely make sure you add bar oil. You should, if your saw is properly adjusted, it should use 1 tank of bar oil for every 1 tank of fuel. So every time you fill this thing up with fuel, you should add bar oil. Make sure you top off both of them at the same time. Another thing I would do, whether your saw is brand new or used, is check your spark plug. Make sure that it is gapped properly. Even if your chainsaw is brand new, it doesn't mean that the brand new spark plug they put in there was gapped properly. Check your manual, see what the proper gap is for your spark plug, and make sure it's gapped. If it's not gapped properly, you may have some problems with your saw not running properly, or it may seem to run great, but when you shut the saw off, and then go to restart it while it's hot, it may not want to restart. And what happens is your spark plug, the metal heats up and expands. And if your spark plug wasn't gapped properly to start with, it may not be getting a proper spark, and so therefore it won't start. So definitely check your spark plug gap. And if you've bought a used saw, what I probably do is go to your auto parts store, have them look up and get a brand new plug for your saw. And then again, just because it's brand new doesn't mean it's correct. Make sure that it is properly gapped. You can just get a little small gapping tool at most auto parts store, and it's really easy to do. So just check your spark plug gap, and it may save you a lot of headache down the line. The other thing is after you've been using your saw for a little bit, the air filter will get dirty. So on my saw, it's real simple. I just unscrew this here all the way, and then I can pop off this little cover, and it gets me to my air filter. Now mine is nice and clean because I've already cleaned it, preparing my saw for the winter to come. So, but you can see when it's dirty, you'll have like sawdust and all kinds of stuff all over it, and it's basically going to choke off your saw. It's not going to get enough air, and your saw will probably want to bog at high RPMs, and when you're trying to cut, it just won't seem to run very good. And it's just as simple as pulling this out, getting some carb cleaner, spraying it off real good, spraying it out, getting it all cleaned off, and making sure all the airways are clear, and then making sure that you properly seat it back onto your saw here. And I'm not paying attention what I'm doing, and I'm not seating mine on properly. So anyways, yeah, and just put it back on. Again, on my saw, this is where I also access the spark plug. So check your owner's manual, see what you need to do to clean your to access and clean your air filter, but make sure that, probably after every few uses, pop that thing out, give it a good cleaning, and then put it back on, and then your saw will stay running well. The other thing that you need to do with the saw, if you're new to saws, is make sure that the chain is tensioned properly. Usually most saws have 2 bolts right here. You can see, you loosen them up. My saw has a little screw here that once I loosen these, I take a flathead screwdriver and I turn this, and it will tighten or loosen my saw. What I usually like to do, and I think this one's just a tad bit tight, but what I like to be able to do is be able to reach down, grab my chain, pull it down, and be able to pull it down and not have the teeth come out of the bar. And then I feel like it's properly tensioned. This one, like I said, I feel like might be just a little bit too tight, so I'll have to adjust it, but for the most part, that's pretty close. So anyways, I hope that you guys found this useful. I think if you maintain a lower end saw like this, just as well as you would maintain a higher end saw, I think you'll find that if you're just a hobbyist user, a lower end, less expensive saw is going to run for you very well for a long time. So like I said, I hope you guys found some value in this. If you did, please hit the like button. If you guys are not subscribed to my channel and you like camping and photography related videos, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel, and I'll catch you guys again outside.